Mary had a little lamb.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
A woman who says she worked for former Mayor Rudy Giuliani is accusing him of sexual assault, misconduct, and wage theft.
CBS 2's Dick Brennan in our newsroom with more on these allegations and also reaction from Giuliani's office. Dick?
Well, Christina Maurice Noel Dunphy says she began working for Giuliani in January of 2019 when he was the private attorney of then-President Trump. But she claims she was put through horrible misconduct and has tape recordings, and that some of her exchanges with Giuliani are on that tape. We want to warn you, these allegations are graphic. Noel Dunphy says she was hired by Rudy Giuliani for a salary of $1 million a year to be his director of business development. But she says instead she was subject to sexual assault and harassment and wage theft.
When they were supposed to be working, he would, as our client alleges, he would then grope her and try to initiate sexual contact. The 70-page indictment contains many lurid allegations about the former mayor of New York, that he drank morning, noon, and night and was frequently intoxicated, and therefore his behavior was always unpredictable, and that Giuliani often demanded that Dunphy work naked or in short shorts with an American flag on them that he bought for her, and that she never knew when Giuliani might force sexual contact on her. She alleges that on several occasions she objected clearly, that he did not respect those objections. The suit claims Giuliani demanded oral sex while he took phone calls, including with then-President Trump, and told her he enjoyed it because it made him feel like Bill Clinton. Dunphy says she recorded many of the vulgar comments. Racist remarks, comments about the genitalia of Jewish men, for example, comments about different ethnic groups, comments about the bodies of prominent women like Hillary Clinton and Elizabeth Warren, imagining them in sexual scenarios.
Oh, God.
A statement from Giuliani's office reads in part, Mayor Rudy Giuliani unequivocally denies the allegations raised by Ms. Dunphy and says his lifetime of public service speaks for itself, and he will pursue all available remedies and counterclaims. The suit also claims Giuliani gave Dunphy access to more than 23,000 of his emails, some allegedly containing classified and privileged exchanges with then-President Trump. Dunphy is seeking $10 million.
I'm going to vomit now. Oh, my God. They owe us $10 million. Rudy Giuliani owes us $10 million just for trying to, imagine him having sex with anything, with anybody, anytime, anywhere. Oh, I'm just, this is gag-inducing. I mean, I saw that last night. I got to boil my body. I need to scrub, and then all of a sudden it's like, lordy, there are tapes. There are tapes. There better be tapes, because, this is really quite something. First of all, that's local. That's CBS Channel 2 in New York, where I grew up. I know that station. They called the complaint an indictment. It's not an indictment. It's a complaint. She filed a civil lawsuit, this Dunphy woman did, against Rudy Giuliani, saying that he had offered her $1 million a year. Listen, honey, if you were having sex with him, $1 million a day ain't enough. But she says that he hired her as his director of business development. Turns out that the business was the sex business, and that it was procuring alcohol for him at 10 o'clock in the morning. According to this complaint, according to this filing, according to this lawsuit she filed, Rudy was drunk all the time, like from the moment that he opened his eyeballs to the end of the night, okay? He was popping Viagra, according to her, all day, every day, so that she never, ever knew when he would demand sex from her. She hung around, even though he only paid her a total of, I believe, according to the lawyer that is representing her, $12,000 for the whole year. And she hung around for the whole year waiting to get paid. He was telling her that he had to defer the payment to her because he didn't want his ex-wife, who was suing him for divorce, to know that he was paying somebody $1 million a year. And also in the business development arena, she was supposed to, and this is where it gets like, she better have tapes or so. I mean, she's accusing Rudy Giuliani of selling pardons together with Donald Trump as his business partner in the business of selling pardons for $2 million apiece, and that he and Donald Trump would split the $2 million. Now, that's hard to believe because I can't imagine Donald Trump selling a pardon for anything less than 2.5. So, you know. But I don't know. I don't know. This is like really, I don't know. And I will tell you this. Last night, everybody was breathless over it. Last night, it was all over the TV. Last night, it was people were reporting on it. People were reading it. People were holding it up. People were, they had Post-its in the complaint and highlighter all over it. And, that's how I work too. So I know what they were, they're trying to, tag where it says this and where it says that so that you could flip through it and blah, blah, and cite your source. But honestly, today it's like radio silence. Today there's nothing on the TV about it. Nothing at all. Nothing on any of the major networks. Nothing on ABC. Nothing on NBC. Nothing on CBS. Nothing on CNN. Nothing on MSNBC. Nothing on Fox, of course. Okay, nothing. Nothing about it. So something's wrong. That's all I could tell you. Something's wrong. And it's more wrong than making you want to boil your body wrong. It's more wrong than they owe us $10 million for even making us envision Rudy Giuliani fantasizing about Elizabeth Warren in bed. Oh, gag. And also, you know who was on his list of women to do? Margaret Thatcher. I mean, he had some, Nancy Pelosi. According to her, he was, totally into these women. And he was also, according to her, into BDSM. Listen, can I just tell you that anybody that has sex with Rudy Giuliani has to be a masochist? I think that goes without explanation. I don't think we have to discuss it any further. Was he into BDSM? Obviously, you have to be a masochist to even be near that guy. His face drips, okay? He looks like a vampire, and that's without any alcohol on board and Viagra, for God's sake. But this complaint, I had to read it last night. It's gag-inducing. You will want to barf. You will never be okay. And I'm just peeved with either person, whether her filing is true or his denial is true, for making me think about this. It's disgusting. I don't get paid nearly enough. And like I said, it would have to be $1 million a day to think about that. The only one that gets that kind of cash is like Rachel Maddow. She shows up on Monday, gets 30 mil. I don't know. But, now I guess we're all like MAGA donors now. We're all getting duped. We're all getting, involuntary, revolving billing for, the people that gave him $5. And now everybody is, revolving sexual assault accusations. I don't know what to make of this. I honestly don't. But I will tell you, it was everywhere last night. I mean, it was just everywhere.
A new lawsuit out of New York accusing former President Trump's former personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, of offering to sell pardons by his former boss. It's a lawsuit filed by a former employee of Giuliani's accusing him of sexual assault, harassment, wage theft. According to the lawsuit, Giuliani allegedly asked the former employee if she knew anybody who needed a pardon, saying he'd sell them for $2 million that would be split between him and Mr. Trump. The lawsuit also says Giuliani allegedly told her not to go through the, and I'm quoting here, normal channels for a pardon, because then that'd be subject to disclosures under the Freedom of Information Act.
What do you think? I mean, he's gross. He's gross enough to have been doing this. He's a liar. He's obviously a target. Maybe Fonnie Willis can actually wrap this up for us. He's a target of her investigation with the, lying to the legislature in the state of Georgia and representing to, any court that would have him that there was fraud in the election. I mean, he lost his law license, didn't he? So, I don't know.
Off things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
The problem, the big problem, for Rudolph Giuliani and his written blanket denial of everything in this 69-page lawsuit filed in Manhattan today is the sentence, "This conversation was recorded," which appears repeatedly throughout this document.
It does.
The conversation about splitting bribe money, extortion money with Donald Trump was not recorded. It appears on page 26 of the lawsuit complaint, just above the passage that shows an actual text message from Rudolph Giuliani to Noelle Dunphy asking, "Can I shower with you?"
Oh.
Perfectly normal question for boss Rudy Giuliani, one of his employees. At the top of that same page, the complaint says he also asked Ms. Dunphy if she knew anyone in need of a pardon, telling her that he was selling pardons for $2 million, which he and President Trump would split. He told Ms. Dunphy that she could refer individuals seeking pardons to him so long as they did not go through the normal channels of the Office of Pardon Attorney, because correspondence going to that office would be subject to disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act. A footnote, just a footnote on page 39 says he told her that if the FBI sought to interview her, she should not remember anything and should claim that she did not know Giuliani. Ms. Dunphy refused to agree to lie to the FBI, which angered Giuliani. If Rudy Giuliani did say that, that is a federal crime. There is no indication that that conversation was recorded.
Okay, so I saw Borat. I understand the pervy nature of the Rudy. I understand that. You remember in Borat, he thought that the actress that was acting in Borat, he thought that she was a real 15-year-old girl. You know that, right? That's what went on in that movie, and he laid down on the... Listen, could I just tell you, you might want to have a bottle of Listerine handy to gargle with, if we continue to talk about this topic, because it's really, really, really gross. The thing that makes it somewhat discussable, like you can't just write it off, is that she says repeatedly in this 70-page complaint that she recorded him saying really disgusting, unbelievably sexual things. And she also claims that during the pandemic that she was working remotely and that they were getting together on Zoom calls, and that he insisted that she be stark raving nude on those Zoom calls. Now, if she was worth $1 million a year, I'm pretty sure she knows how to push the record button on the Zoom, and she would have that too. So I don't know. It's just so vile. But there is a long list of recordings she says she does have in the lawsuit. She says various things are recorded.
Here is a sampling of the recorded statements, just the recorded statements that Rudolph Giuliani made that now appear as the basis for a lawsuit alleging sexual harassment, sexual assault, denial of wages, and other severe abuses of Noelle Dunphy. Page 12. He was later recorded telling Ms. Dunphy, "I've wanted you from the day I interviewed you." Page 26, on February 23rd, 2019, Giuliani told Ms. Dunphy that he could get in trouble with underage girls if they were 16 but looked 20.
Ew.
Or he could not get in trouble with underage girls if they were 16 and looked 20. This conversation was recorded. He told Ms. Dunphy, who is 43 years old, during a recorded conversation, "I need time alone with my girlfriend, with my daughter, with my little girl."
Oh.
This became part of a pattern in which Giuliani referenced Ms. Dunphy as his daughter in the context of sexual activity and made her extremely uncomfortable.
Ew.
Page 39, Giuliani told Ms. Dunphy that he was in love with 3 or 4 women. He also told her that he was attracted to a 20-year-old employee who who was then more than 50 years his junior, about 58 years his junior, in fact. He told Ms. Dunphy that he had a certain sexual attraction to the 20-year-old employee, that he fantasized about her, and that he kissed that 20-year-old employee on the lips but did not consummate the relationship. He said that his attraction to his 20-year-old employee was different from his attraction to Mrs. Ryan, or Ms. Dunphy, whom he said he just could not control himself around. This conversation was recorded. The name of that 20-year-old employee does appear in this civil complaint. I just didn't want to use it here on television. On page 45, on a list of statements that were recorded, he says, "I think of you as my daughter. Is that weird?"
Yes.
Which Giuliani said while engaging in sexual contact with Ms. Dunphy.
Yes.
Early in her employment with Giuliani, Ms. Dunphy traveled from her home in Florida to New York. Giuliani insisted that instead of a hotel, she stay in his guest room in his apartment. Page 15. Ms. Dunphy was frightened. She said she wanted to get dressed, unpack, and settle in. She asked for privacy. She said she would meet him in the living room when she was ready, but Giuliani would not leave. He sat on the bed and pulled down his pants. The following screenshot from the film Borat, subsequent movie film, depicts Giuliani acting in a similar manner to how he acted with Ms. Dunphy. And a screenshot from Borat actually appears in this lawsuit right in the middle of the page, this lawsuit against Rudolph Giuliani.
Oh, I don't feel well.
Randy, my virgin ears, what have you done?
Oh, you don't have to be a virgin to be, retching from Rudy laying. Oh, all right. Leon on Long Island.
I'm not buying it, Randy.
Okay, tell me why.
And I would love for this to be true because, if it's true, it'll implicate Donald Trump down the road also. But
there's so many felonies in this complaint. It's kind of odd that we're in a civil suit arena. I mean, she accuses him of many, many federal crimes. Selling pardons is a federal crime, okay?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
But here's what confuses me. If you're so traumatized and horrified, why not quit? I mean, you're working for slave wages anyway. Is that the only freaking job in New York? Why did you stay?
Why did she stay?
I would have been out in New York.
Well, in the complaint, she says that the reason she stayed was because he owed her so much money, and she didn't want to leave without, getting it. And he kept on, delaying, but saying it was coming. He was going to pay her. He was going to pay her. He was going to pay her.
Yeah, I'm not buying.
Yeah, it is a very strange story, I have to say.
Yeah,
but the problem is tapes. Are there tapes? I mean, she
I
said,
I'd love it to be true. I hope that there are tapes.
Lordy.
Please let there be tapes.
Right. I know. It's so unconscionable. I don't know. It's so gross. It's so ugly that it's hard to believe that anybody would put themselves through it. But there's tapes.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. Rudolph Giuliani would like you to know that he denies everything you're about to hear. He didn't actually deny it himself. He had a spokesperson put out a written statement today. Rudy Giuliani unequivocally denies the allegations raised by Ms. Dunphy. Ms. Dunphy is Noelle Dunphy, whose lawyer will join us in a moment. She has filed a lawsuit against Rudolph Giuliani, accusing him of extreme violations of labor law and sexual harassment law and laws against sexual assault. But the lawsuit, this lawsuit right here, also quotes Rudolph Giuliani claiming that he was selling pardons for $2 million with the money to be split between himself and the issuer of the pardons, Donald Trump. That is by far the most serious evidence of federal crimes included in this lawsuit. The lawsuit also quotes Rudolph Giuliani telling Noelle Dunphy to commit the crime of lying to the FBI. That is also evidence of Rudy Giuliani committing another federal crime. And there is a third federal and state crime described in the lawsuit when Rudolph Giuliani is quoted describing how he collected $1 million owed to him without reporting it as income so that his wife would not be able to get any of that money in his then pending divorce proceedings.
Oh, good God.
That is federal income tax evasion, which carries a 5-year prison term, and state income tax evasion.
Yeah, and you know, what is Rudy, 78 years old? So, you know, that's like 5 years. It would be like the rest of his life to be in prison. So these are federal crimes. There's a lot of federal crimes in this complaint. You know, set aside the ick factor, okay, of having to visualize Rudy in any state of undress. Ew. Okay. And let's just focus on, you know, the federal crimes that are alleged in this particular lawsuit, which, you know, lie to the FBI if somebody asks you whether or not we're selling pardons. Just say you don't know me. And she wasn't comfortable lying to the FBI, so she told him, and this apparently enraged him. So, you know, selling pardons obviously is a federal crime. Selling pardons with the president of the United States, oh my God. And then lie to the FBI if anybody, you know, ever asks you about what we're doing here together. Just lie, say you don't know me, say you don't remember any of this, whatever. That's another federal crime. And then the tax evasion crime, that's an interesting crime because he said to her, and apparently she recorded these conversations. That's the problem with this story. The problem is she says there's recordings. There's lordy, there are tapes, right? And the last time there were tapes, and Donald Trump was on the phone with Brad Raffensperger telling him, oh, come on, fellas, I just need you to find me. Just find me, you know, 11,890 votes, one more than we have, because I won the state, right? So whenever there's tapes regarding Donald Trump, there's law breaking. And then he says it was a perfect call. Okay, there were tapes with the extortion of Volodymyr Zelensky, and Donald Trump said it was a perfect call. There are tapes of him shaking down, extorting the Secretary of State of Georgia and others on that phone call, and he said that's a perfect phone call. So wherever there are tapes of Donald Trump and his, you know, cronies and his hacks and his minions, you know, either somebody's face is melting off or they're committing crimes on the tape. That's the problem. That is the problem. And the tax thing is really, you know, it kind of sounds like something that, you know, Donald Trump, Rudy, you know, that kind of a guy would discuss. He says that there was a guy who was holding $1 million that he was owed. And this guy was holding the $1 million that, you know, Rudy was about to collect for services rendered or some such crap. And he was letting the guy hold it because he didn't want to have to say that he received it ahead of his divorce, and put it on his tax forms, which is what they would, you know, award alimony based on. That's tax evasion. That's saying, you know, yeah, I earned it this year, but I don't want it yet. I mean, that's pretty gross.
As for the tax crime alleged in this lawsuit, it appears that defendant Giuliani has a very big problem.
Yeah.
On page 22 of the complaint, it says, Giuliani told Ms. Dunphy that someone owed him $1 million, but Giuliani hinted that instead of having the money paid to him, he had his friend, Robert Strick, hold it for him. He said, Robert Strick just got me $1 million payment. This statement was recorded.
Oh, God.
If that statement was recorded and does include Rudolph Giuliani describing how he is obtaining $1 million without declaring it as income so that he can hide it from his wife in a divorce proceeding, Rudolph Giuliani could face a federal prison term of 5 years for federal tax evasion.
Right.
That recorded statement could put Rudolph Giuliani in federal prison for the rest of his life.
And she said there are recordings. And then her lawyer, a guy named Justin Kelton, I looked him up. He does work for the law firm that the newspapers were reporting were representing her in this matter. And Justin Kelton said that while the pardon conversation was not recorded, the pardon conversation was had in front of witnesses. But he names one of the witnesses, and one of the witnesses is the felon, the ex-convict, Lev Parnas, who obviously was friends with Igor Fruman, Rudy Giuliani, Lev Parnas, and Donald Trump. And there are photographs of her with those people. She actually has, I've seen photographs of them together.
Repeatedly, you say in this complaint, this conversation was recorded, this statement was recorded.
Right.
It doesn't say that when Giuliani's describing the way he's selling pardons for $2 million. Is there any recording about that?
There's not a recording about that we know of. We do expect that it will be corroborated in other ways.
How else could that be corroborated?
Well, the complaint alleges that somebody else was present during those discussions, Lev Parnas, and in part, we would like to talk to him about those conversations.
So is it fair when you read these 69 pages that every place where it says this statement was recorded or anywhere it says this conversation was recorded, to interpret it as that's the recorded material? And wherever it doesn't say that, you can assume it's not recorded. That's the way I read it.
For the most part, but I would say that there are other recordings that were not referenced in the complaint that may become relevant at some time. You know, the complaint is an outline of Ms. Dunphy's allegations. It's a very detailed outline, yes. But there may be other evidence that comes out as the case proceeds towards trial.
So he said, yeah, it's there are recordings. They exist. There are other ways to corroborate statements she's making in this complaint that weren't recorded. We have witnesses, but he does indicate he's never spoken to Lev Parnas about his corroborating testimony, which I find interesting. But, oh my God, there are tapes. And he says, the lawyer says that Rudy is like a little racist dude. He says things like Hispanic guys and black guys, this is lovely, beat their wives because it's part of their culture. And that Jewish men have tiny little peni.
It's the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Okay, Justin Kelton.
Now, the lawsuit, to be clear, is about Rudolph Giuliani, as described, luring this woman, a woman he finds attractive, into working for him, promising her to pay her $1 million a year, which he can't pay her right now because he's trying to hide money from his wife while he's in divorce proceedings. And if she just waits until the divorce is over, which is way more than the year in this story that is told, then she'll be paid retroactively all the money she's owed.
Exactly.
According to the lawsuit, she was never paid anything.
Well, she received a few small payments in cash so that they wouldn't be traceable. And she alleges that some of her business expenses were reimbursed, not all, but some. But the vast, vast majority of what she alleges was to be paid to her has never been paid.
So your boss, who's forcing you to have sex with him, is paying you in cash. I would leave skid marks. I'm just saying. I'd be so out of there. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't know what to. But the story would not even be on my radar. This story would not be anywhere on the show if there wasn't an allegation of tapes, recorded conversations in which Rudy Giuliani is having sex with her, saying, hey, you remind me of my little daughter. And, hey, I'm selling pardons. And, hey, you're my business development, person. So if you know anybody, send them my way. But, don't let them go through the Office of Pardons because that is recoverable under the Freedom of Information Act. And by the way, the going price is $2 million. Oh, God, I don't know. I don't know. But she is accusing him of rape. She's accusing him of, in this complaint, there's an accusation of first degree, third degree, fourth degree, rape, all kinds of rape degrees. I don't know. I don't know. But, the disgusting thing about all of this is that it's forcing any of us to think about him having sex. All right, Gary in Fort Lauderdale.
Hi, Randy.
Hey.
Hey, would you agree that if these allegations are true, this lawsuit should settle quite quickly?
Yes.
Me too.
Yeah.
Because neither he nor Trump want these facts to get out, especially the part about selling the pardons.
Right, but then, you have to understand what we're talking about then. So then we're talking about Donald Trump running for president again, and he was at this this festival of neo-Nazis and psychos called the Reawaken Fest. I mean, did you see any of that?
When was this?
That was this past weekend. I didn't bother with it because it's just so bizarre. Donald Trump was supposed to be in Iowa. He didn't show up. He blamed it on the weather. I think it was because he couldn't get a crowd, but I could be wrong, okay? But anyway, he didn't show up. But Michael Flynn was the host, and Michael Flynn had Donald Trump dial in to the Reawaken Fest. And Flynn was on the stage, preaching his weird-ass version of Christianity, whatever. Donald Trump calls in, and Donald Trump promises that if he's back in the Oval Office, if he becomes president of the United States again, that he'll bring Michael Flynn back as the national security advisor. Michael Flynn, who pled guilty after the Mueller investigation and then pled guilty to pleading guilty, said, oh, no, I want to say I wasn't really guilty. I pled guilty, but whatever. He said he'd bring him back, and he would bring back Rudy. So this is the character and the quality of person that would be back in the Oval Office, whether he settles this, he doesn't settle this, whether she's lying or not. I mean, the idea that everyone could actually agree that if you wanted to sell pardons, Rudy was your guy.
It's also disgusting, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, that the
the
character of these men is so, not beyond reproach, is so approachable, right? Their character is so low. It is the esteem in which people think of them is so low that you could believe that they were doing this.
Well, her character must be pretty low, too.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to judge her. I don't know her. I don't know anything about her.
She's going to take $1 million for a job? Who gets that?
Well, she says she was going to be the director of business development, and that was her wheelhouse. That's what she was skilled in, business development, and that she had done this kind of work before, finding clients and building out businesses, and that's
you know how old she is?
43.
I thought she might have been younger than that.
No.
All right. Well, it's sure going to be interesting.
It's already disgusting. I mean, it's already vile.
Well, it's certainly disgusting.
Right, because, look, if I was saying this about Joe Biden, nobody would believe it, okay? No one. No
one.
The
Republicans would. Sure they would. They believe anything.
That's true. But normal people, let's just say.
Normal people, yes.
Would never believe it. Okay, there's no way. I mean, if I told you, like Kamala Harris or if I told you Sheldon Whitehouse, or if I told, anybody, that is, a prominent Democratic leader of, the Senate or the House even, or, a president passed. I mean, Bill Clinton was impeached for having a consensual affair with Monica Lewinsky. I mean, he was literally impeached. And here we have downshifted into everybody records everybody. I mean, it's crazy because, Michael Cohen, he recorded Donald Trump. Donald Trump, he recorded Michael Cohen. Rudy Giuliani, everybody recorded him, and they all recorded each other. Why? Because they're not trustworthy, because they're all a bunch of snakes. Tender woman, let me in. I told you I was a snake. I mean, he was trying to tell you. He was trying to tell you he was a snake. But people kind of liked it. Yeah, he's a snake, all right, but he'll be my snake. Does John and Reno want to go on the air or no? No? Okay. Well, I got to say, the only thing left to figure out about this is whether or not there are tapes. John and Reno.
Hi.
Hey.
My understanding was that she was given access and she had downloaded Rudy's emails to, and it included emails to all the Trump family and all the political associates and everything else.
Well, I don't know that she downloaded it, but I do know that he gave her access to his email, and she claims to have seen 23,000 emails between him and various other people. So I don't know whether or not she screenshotted, downloaded. I don't know what she, if he changed his logins and I don't know. But yes, well, that is mentioned in these stories as well.
Her her attorney on Lawrence O'Donnell's show last night said that they were going through those emails, that they were reading those emails.
Oh, really? Did he?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I tried to check this a couple of times, and I think that's the important part of this story. Is
the whole story is
important.
If any of this is true, it's all important. Selling pardons for $2 million, splitting the money with the president of the United States, literally, having access to, she said she was also, in the room having sex with him while he was on the phone with Donald Trump and other various important people, and that she was overhearing classified and secret information that she shouldn't have, been able to listen in on because she didn't have any clearances at all, but that Rudy liked for her to do that. When he was on the phone with important people talking about, our security matters, our country's security, because it made him feel like Bill Clinton. I don't know.
Well, he'll double check me on that, but I'm pretty sure as I read her complaint, and I think it's paragraphs like 94 through 99, that where it talks about all that email stuff, and if she has all that stuff, that could be potentially a bombshell.
Well, I know she's seen it. I don't know that she kept it, but I know that she's seen it. I know that she had access to his email because, he gave her access to his email. So,
Well, it just underlines, what kind of person he is.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. So the thing for me is that people are considering, like 27% of the Republican Party are always going to vote for Donald Trump. Whether he's on the ballot or not, I can promise you they will only accept Donald Trump as the next president of the United States. And those people they need to know that the kind of people that he brings with him is this kind of person, is a Michael Flynn. Okay, that these people, Steve Bannon will come back. Do you know what? Jason Miller, all these miscreants go back into the Oval Office with Donald Trump. That can't be okay.
Well, it would certainly offend us, but it's not going to offend his followers.
Well, why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't it offend his followers that random women or people are able to, download or see email or record these guys, doing illegal things? Why wouldn't that be a concern for them? That there are people all around Donald Trump that even if they think he's God, are backstabbers. They're all Pontius Pilates, every one of them. They're all Judas. Why shouldn't they, react to the fact that he has really bad taste in advisors? And they'll all come back.
Mary had a little lamb. The fault. We believe that all men are created
equal to the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
The investigation that followed a political firestorm around the 2016 election.
A horrible, horrible, disgusting witch hunt.
Finally wrapping up ahead of the next one. Republicans saying it exposed serious wrongdoing by the FBI.
The FBI has an awful lot of work to do.
While Democrats calling it a rehash that didn't live up to its billing.
The investigation, the investigators by Durham revealed little to nothing.
Mr. Trump on his Truth Social website saying the American public was scammed. But the report, though highly critical of the FBI, did not back up Mr. Trump's claims that he was framed by a corrupt deep state conspiracy.
I think it's the political crime of the century.
In fact, Special Counsel John Durham did not find corruption or even actions motivated by politics. Durham was tapped by Trump's Attorney General, Bill Barr, to look into whether FBI officials abused their powers when they opened an investigation in 2016, codenamed Crossfire Hurricane, looking into allegations the Trump campaign had colluded with the Russian government. That eventually led to the appointment of Special Counsel Robert Mueller, who in the end did not find a conspiracy between Trump and the Kremlin.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
although Mueller did find a Trump campaign eager to accept help from Russians.
Yeah.
Durham's report criticized what he called seriously deficient mistakes by the FBI, adding the Bureau was much more cautious and skeptical about allegations against the Clinton campaign.
What?
All potential fodder for Trump as he mounts another campaign for president.
The FBI says it long ago overhauled how it handles national security investigations in response to that earlier Inspector General's report. And the Attorney General now has to personally approve probes into national political campaigns.
I mean, the corrections that needed to be made at the FBI regarding investigations into political campaigns have been made. They were made after, the Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, looked into whether or not there was a political persuasion that was guiding the decisions that Strzok and the rest of the FBI were making with regard to looking into Donald Trump's love affair with Vladimir Putin. And they found that there was no political motivation on the part of anybody who was involved in Crossfire Hurricane. I mean, you've heard of Bull Durham. This is Durham Bull. This was absolute bullcrap. This was a 4-year weaponization of the special counsel appointed by Bill Barr, who was abusing the Department of Justice to defend and to point fingers at Donald Trump's perceived enemies. And so $6.5 million later, Durham's bull is done. I mean, I thought it was shocking to hear that was the final report last night, because in September I thought he was finished. I thought it was all over back then, but oh no, he had to write it all up. So they released it yesterday, 300 freaking pages of this nonsense saying nothing wrong, that he charged no one. I mean, he brought 2 criminal prosecutions. Both of those were, the jury acquitted these people like almost in real time and said, why are you wasting our time with this? There's no there. There's nothing here for us to, adjudicate a guilty there's nothing here. What are you doing? There's nothing. And then the one lawyer that everybody was sure was going to sink all of, Mueller's report, the one that was going to show that it was all a political witch hunt against Donald Trump. He had, I think on the 4th reauthorization of a Pfizer secret court. And, I've told you a billion times, I don't think that in America there ought to be any secret courts. Okay. That said, we have one. It's called the Pfizer court. And they actually had a 4th renewal of a warrant, a wiretap, I think it was. And in the 4th renewal request, some lawyer wrote down something wrong, wrote it wrong. And this guy was also charged. And he actually got, I think, 300 hours of community service for his horrible crime. So, listen, this Durham guy, this special prosecutor, he's the only person I've ever seen work for, be an attorney general or an inspector general or a special counsel that failed to get anything done. I mean, like nothing. He found no crimes. He made no recommendations to do anything differently in the DOJ or in the FBI in his 300-page report, because it was bullcrap. You talk about weaponizing the apparatus of government. See, this is what is so hypocritical and grotesque about the projection that goes on in the Republican Party, where if they're telling me I'm dishonest, you can pretty much be sure that I'm honest and that they are lying. Right? And that is their pattern and practice, to be dishonest, because they project so much. Like every time they say, there's this cabal of pedophiles, and every time you peel back a layer of the onion, there's this guy over here that just got, popped for having hours and hours of child porn on his computer. There's this guy over there that was running a sex trafficking ring. There's this youth pastor over there. There's this guy in charge of that church. There's this guy over here. I mean, it's just like, it never ends. It never freaking ends with them. It's always projection. And so when they said that Jim Jordan was going to have this committee with the weaponization of government, that's what he called it, the weaponization of government committee. He was going to look into Democrats weaponizing government, and that the Durham report was going to show this. couldn't be further from the truth. That the Durham bull was actually the weaponization of the independent counsel's office at the behest of the former Attorney General of the United States, Bill Barr, who really was Donald Trump's official fixer in the White House. I mean, he was the Michael Cohen of the United States. He had been the Attorney General before, Bill Barr did. And he wrote this op-ed in a newspaper to get Trump's attention saying, Beauregard over there isn't doing right by you. I would do right by you. And so fire Jeff Sessions, get rid of him, and bring me on board, and I'll get everybody. I'll look into everybody. I'll weaponize the Department of Justice against all your perceived enemies, foreign and domestic. And that's exactly what he did. He came in, he said, I really do believe they were wiretapping him, produced absolutely zero evidence, nothing, goose egg, donut, squat, not a single recording or a single piece of evidence that said that anybody had ever spied on Donald Trump. In fact, Donald Trump was spying on everybody. Rudy Giuliani was spying on Donald Trump. If anybody was spying on Michael Cohen, it was them. And if Michael Cohen was spying on anybody, it was Donald Trump. So, I mean, it's all in-house stuff. It's just exactly backwards from what they were accusing us of doing. They were doing to each other. So, and then he hires Bull Durham there. He hires him. And he says, he'll get to the bottom of it. I can't spend all day, every day on this. So I'll get a friendly guy, a guy that I know, we'll pay him, 6.5. And he'll have it going on like way past the first 4 years. So even if you're not reelected, it will still continue. And you could use it to run again saying, we're waiting for Durham. We're waiting for Durham, the Durham report. There's nothing in there. Nothing. And by the way, the Inspector General at the Department of Justice, who Trump did not fire, Mr. Horowitz there, he found that there was nothing to investigate, that the FBI properly opened up the investigation into the Russian election interference, and that when Robert Mueller was given the task of, being the special counsel to investigate it, how many people went to jail? How many people, Michael Flynn was guilty. I can't even tell you how many people pled guilty, how many people were guilty, how many people, were involved in Russia interfering in our elections. I mean, honestly, Russia hacked the DNC. That's a done deal. That's a gimme. That you should know. Bank that, know that. And then when they hacked the DNC, that's when they found the emails. And Roger Stone coordinated their release.
I watched it on TV.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Andrew Weissman, Manafort, guilty or innocent in a court of law?
Guilty.
Gates, guilty.
Repeatedly.
Gates, guilty or innocent in a court of... Roger Stone, guilty or innocent in a court of law?
Guilty.
Mike Flynn, guilty or innocent? He pled guilty so many times, they were going to tattoo it.
Pled guilty, admitted he was guilty, then
like
withdrew and said to the judge, I falsely said I was guilty.
Papadopoulos, innocent or guilty?
Guilty.
So Durham's
Just to be clear, that's not just me. That
correct.
Is either them out of their own mouths or the jury.
Durham's whole thing is predicated on, it's like a rabbit hole conspiracy that suggests that the Trump Barr paranoia infected his ability to stand back and evaluate whether the probe yielded guilty convictions of people who would have had nothing to do with any of these questions he looked at. It is a view from so far down the rabbit hole that what needs a scrub, what needs some oversight, is what Mr. Durham did for 4 years that repelled his longtime prosecutorial partner, Nora Dennehy, and other high-level DOJ prosecutors.
Right. Yeah, well, the New York Times, as Katie Benner has reported, is that Nora Dennehy resigned in protest, saying that there was undue pressure by Bill Barr. That they were taking reports at face value and they were not scrutinizing it correctly. So I mean, the irony here is kind of palpable.
I mean, everything that they said that we were doing, weaponizing the government against Donald Trump, weaponizing, the Department of Justice against Donald Trump, all this crap, they were doing it. They were weaponizing, the Department of Justice. Bill Barr was weaponizing the Department of Justice, and the people that were working with Durham on the Durham report were quitting in protest so that people of the Trump organizational, the Trump cult, whatever you're going to call Trump voters now, would know that this was, the fix was in, it was rigged, that Bill Barr had appointed a special counsel to investigate something that had produced guilty verdicts for Paul Manafort, for Gates, for Stone, for Flynn, for Papadopoulos. They were all found guilty in courts. Okay, and this Durham thing was literally the weaponization of the Department of Justice, to the point where Durham's tried and true partner, the person that was like his partner-in-law in the Department of Justice for years and years, Nora Dennehy, she was very loyal to Durham. She liked working with him. She thought he was material. She quit and resigned and spoke to the press about it and said, Bill Barr is putting undue pressure on this office to find evidence of wrongdoing, and there isn't any that, would require anybody to, sit up and take notice. There's nothing going on here that would say that the Russia investigation wasn't, predicated on a proper investigation into Donald Trump's love affair with the hackers who hacked into Hillary Clinton's, Democratic National Committee headquarters. I mean, that happened. And by the way, remember the FBI actually, Comey actually announced when Hillary was cleared from FBI investigation, and then announced that she was coming back in to the FBI's fold for further investigation, and cost her the presidency 11 days before the election. Said that because I wonder if anybody even remembers this, Anthony Weiner's computer was taken by the New York field office of the FBI, and they sat on that computer just long enough to then turn it over 11 days before the election to the Maine Department of Justice, to James Comey's office in Washington, and said, we didn't do any forensics on this, so we don't know whether or not Anthony Weiner's computer has any Hillary Clinton emails on it, but we do know that Huma Abedin, Hillary Clinton's trusted aide, used Anthony Weiner's computer. And so perhaps there are some emails, but we didn't bother to do anything with it. So here you go. And Comey gets on the TV and says, I have to reopen the email investigation because I just came into possession of more emails on Anthony Weiner's computer. And I don't know that we're going to have time before the election to wrap this up. Turned out they were all duplicates of things that they already had cleared as being non-important, non-threatening, I think 3 documents had a C on it for classified. None of it was top secret. None of it was, compartmentalized intelligence. Right. And so he had, and then finally, like a day before, 3 days before the election, he goes, okay, they're all duplicates. Everybody go out and vote. I mean, really? So who prejudiced who? Did the FBI prejudice Hillary Clinton, or did the FBI prejudice Donald Trump? You see what I mean? This makes no sense. And then when you had the IG, the Horowitz, Inspector General that went to find out what was going on inside the freaking FBI, he actually cleared the FBI of doing anything wrong or untoward or violative of procedure or law in this country when they opened up an investigation into the Russian hacking of the DNC. Donald Trump saying, Russia, if you're listening, on May 27th, Russia, if you're listening, I hope you can find the 30,000 emails that are missing. And Roger Stone coordinating the release of those stolen, hacked emails to the public Every time Donald Trump would come up against an issue, a problem, take up more than 3 news cycles with negative news about him, like the Access Hollywood tape, right? Like that. And Roger Stone would make a call, and all of a sudden WikiLeaks would release more emails. Isn't that special? Isn't that something? And you still have people out there that are saying, oh, Julian Assange is like a great hero. He's a journalist. Yeah, well, Julian Assange was actually coordinating with Roger Stone the release of hacked Russian emails that the Russians took from the DNC. I don't know. I don't understand what's gone on in this country, like intellectually or, patriotically or loyalty to this country above all leaders of either party or any politician. Now all of a sudden it's like a cult of one, and this guy can do no wrong, and it doesn't matter that Carter Page was found guilty, that Paul Manafort was found guilty, that Roger Stone was found guilty, that Michael Flynn was found guilty, that Papadopoulos was found. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that the Mueller investigation actually produced guilty people and made them stand at the bar of justice. But Durham found nothing. Nothing. The 2 people that he tried to charge, the jury acquitted them so fast, unanimously, and said, you're wasting our time here. What are we doing? What is this about? Because it was the weaponization of the Department of Justice. And that's why Jim Jordan named his committee the weaponization of the Department of Justice, because it's exactly what they did. It's exactly what they did. It's exactly what Bill Barr was all about. The only thing that happened that went wrong with the relationship between Donald Trump and Bill Barr was not willing to say there was fraud in the election in all the swing states without evidence. And they found and produced absolutely nothing. No evidence at all. In fact, Rudy Giuliani, if he goes to jail, it'll be for that.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
What's unbelievable about John Durham is he brought 2 cases that he lost. He seemed to say it was okay to bring a case even though it was really thin and not really provable as long as you have some other story. This was Bill Barr's argument, which was, oh, that's fine because he was telling a more important story. That's not what criminal cases are for. So there was just this real lack of substance to what he was doing. And when you have the IG already doing an investigation, talk about like a total... you want to talk about a witch hunt or sort of real wasted resources. There are a lot of things to investigate. There are a lot of things that can be useful in government. If John Durham was really just doing an investigation to talk about what are better policies and practices that the FBI could have and was depoliticizing it, I would have been all for that and said, great, you know what? There's no agency that can't use greater scrutiny. But this was trying to say that there's a big there when, there's no there. And so I just think the big picture, if you step back, is for those people who think, oh, everybody does it. The Democrats do it, the Republicans do it, everybody's up to no good and shenanigans. There really is that's just not true. There is a false equivalency because you have an enormous number of cases which were proved where there, as you pointed out, there are convictions where there is a there. Russia interfered in the 2016 election. They're continuing to interfere. There are people who've gone to jail who are rightly found guilty. And what you have with John Durham is it's a big fat nothing. And it reminds me of the sort of weaponization hearings that are going on where there also is, they're just falling flat on their face because there is no there.
Yeah. Jim Jordan's weaponization of government hearings are going absolutely nowhere. And you know what happened today? The IRS disbanded the tax inquiry into Hunter Biden because Comer and Jordan, they were all on TV going, we had an informant. We had an informant who was going to prove that the Biden family was, dirty and that they were doing foreign operations in exchange for policy. They were getting paid and blah, 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 which means that's what Donald Trump was doing, that there were foreign payments for American policy, right? That there was an acquiescence on the part of Russia to, stay on Trump's side if, Ukraine was not defended. right? If Donald Trump would hold up the the defense Javelin missiles, that's what it was. It was javelins, right? If Donald Trump would hold up the Javelin deployment, the missile deployment to Ukraine for self-defense, right? Nothing offensive at all about javelins, you now know. But he extorted Ukraine, right? Because he wanted favors from Russia still. I mean, this is just so crazy. It is just so obvious that whatever they say that the Democrats are doing, the Republicans are involved in. And the weaponization thing that Jim Jordan is, it's just falling apart because there is no there. It's not just weak tea, okay? It's not just... there's no there. It's not just a nothing burger. It's a nothing family meal with a free drink and refills. It's endless breadsticks is what it is. And it's never, ever, ever going to stop because these people want to continue to be criminal. And in order to do that, they have to play the victim. And they have to say somebody else is doing to them what they're doing to you. And yes, it becomes, this rabbit hole. It becomes this endless, circling around the drain thing. And they hope that that's what it becomes for people so that they just give up trying to figure out who's doing what to who. And that they just, say, oh, the whole government. No, it's not the whole government. It's this particular genre of Republican. It's this particular cult version of conservative, bedrock conservatism. This has nothing to do with bedrock conservatism. This has nothing to do. I mean, look what they're trying to do now. Okay, they're sitting here trying to default the United States of America, trying to default us. I swear we're 2 weeks away from the X date. We're 2 weeks away from not being able to pay any more Social Security checks, to not pay any more EBT cards, to not pay any more Medicare, doctors' Medicare bills that they submit to Medicare for payment. We're like 15 days away. I think we have 5 legislative days left. And what are they doing? Well, we want to cut veterans' benefits. And we want work requirements for food stamps, or else we're going to default the United States, literally holding everyone hostage to their whims, which have nothing to do with Joe Lunchbucket's interests, okay? Nothing at all. It's just, creating chaos. It's just threatening for the sake of threatening. It's just saying, that the government is bad and everybody should expect nothing from it unless you're really, really, really wealthy. Unless you can afford to pay us, unless you can afford to choose and support a Supreme Court justice or two, unless you have a law firm that's willing to pay Jane Roberts $10 million, don't even bother to bring a case because we have our preferred law firms, our preferred lawyers. She's recruited them. These are the people that John likes, that Mr. Chief Justice Roberts wants to listen to. He doesn't want to listen to anybody else. And in fact, forget about voting because we're not really interested in having you weigh in on anything anymore, unless you can afford us. And we're very expensive. Very expensive. So John Durham took 4 years to come up with a nothing burger, with nothing at all. This is the biggest waste of 4 years since... Oh. Russ in New York.
Hey, Randy.
Yeah.
I'd like to connect the show here. Do you see any coincidence with the Durham report of this Borat Giuliani totally contrived story? Do you not see a coincidence in that?
What would it be, though?
Well, the Durham report, I know you're portraying it in a certain way, but, I watch Newsmax.
Well, I'm not portraying it. I'm telling you, he produced zero, prosecutions that were successful. And when he finished, he made no recommendations for the FBI. I mean, like none. He didn't suggest that we do anything differently at all.
Well, that's the thing. On right-wing media, they're very upset that he exposes wrongdoing, and there aren't any
Which wrong? But what wrongdoing was it?
Well, I mean, there was no bedwetting incident in Moscow. We can agree with that, right?
The bedwetting incident in Moscow.
Well, they said he had golden showers. Trump had golden showers.
Oh, please. What we're talking about is that the Russians hacked the DNC. Okay. And that they stole emails, and that there was coordination between the Trump campaign and the release of those emails that the Russians stole and gave to WikiLeaks.
Right.
That's
the
issue.
The true emails about stealing it from Bernie, right? That's what you didn't like to hear about?
The true emails about stealing it from Bernie. Oh, you mean what, Debbie Wasserman Schultz? Yes, those emails, exactly.
You didn't like to hear the truth. You'd rather
I had
say
no problem hearing the truth. I just had a problem with the law breaking by the Russians.
It's unpatriotic.
The hacking
right?
that the Russians engaged in. It's not it's not the content of the emails. It's that the Russians hacked the DNC. And if you don't have a problem with Russians hacking American political parties, then, you know, you need to go and have a little talk with yourself and find out why that is. Why that's something you can't have in your head as true.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
This is the culmination of 4 years of work by John Durham. What else does this report say?
The report basically goes through all the steps taken in the investigation known as Crossfire Hurricane and faults the FBI again and again for how they did it. But it also doesn't particularly tell us much more than we already knew. And frankly, many of these criticisms have been said before, years before, by others who looked at this.
So what Durham seems to be arguing is that the FBI received a lot of information about the Trump campaign back in 2016, and that the FBI should have treated that information as more suspect than they did. Is that the gist here?
Basically, what they're basically saying in this report is the FBI actually didn't have a lot in terms of allegations to go on and didn't do enough careful analysis and work to try to stand up the kinds of allegations it was getting. And basically, their argument is the FBI rushed forward to investigate Trump, when if you look at some past Clinton cases, the FBI was more cautious. But the truth is the FBI ultimately investigated both Trump and Clinton, so I don't know how powerful that criticism is.
Seriously, the FBI did investigate Hillary Clinton's emails, which the Russians hacked. And do you understand like what happened? This has nothing to do with Christopher Steele or the dossier or the PP tape or anything that he said that may have happened at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Moscow, where the president was trying to do business. Okay, the president of the United States was trying to build Trump Tower Moscow the same time he was running for president. See, that was Michael Cohen's little contribution to this whole Russian escapade. Okay, but this had nothing to do, Russ, with what Chris Steele wrote. This investigation, whether you know it or not or don't remember it, but once I say it, you'll go, oh yeah, that's right. But you won't say that. You won't tell me. You won't call me and apologize to me. But this investigation began when George Papadopoulos was in London, and he was at a bar at a meeting with an Australian diplomat named Alexander Downer. Alexander Downer told George Papadopoulos that the Russians had thousands of Hillary Clinton's emails, and they might actually be willing to use those emails that they hacked and had to benefit Donald Trump. That's how this investigation started in the first place. Papadopoulos was convicted. Michael Flynn, who was at that dinner with Jill Stein, was at that table too. Doesn't upset me to know the truth. Whether it was Jill Stein or George Papadopoulos or Michael Flynn, I don't care. What I care about is that a foreign government was meddling and messing in our elections because they stole, they hacked, they did a cyber crime. And they were successful in their cyber crime in getting thousands of emails from the Democratic National Committee, and that they were trading that with Donald Trump and saying, we could help you, we can help you, and sending a message that they were willing to help Donald Trump. And the conclusion of every investigation was that Donald Trump welcomed that help. He encouraged that help. That's why he said, Russia, if you're listening, I hope you can find the 30,000 emails that are missing. He knew Russia had those emails. He understood what he was saying. He understood very clearly that Roger Stone, his trusted aide, was coordinating the release of those documents so that you, Russ, would be sidetracked by the crime. I mean, forget about the crime that occurred in order for Russia to have these emails and give them to WikiLeaks and have Roger Stone coordinate the release so that you would forget that there was an Access Hollywood tape, so that you would forget any inconvenient piece of information about Donald Trump and trying to build a Trump Tower in Moscow, right? And Michael Cohen was actively still negotiating for that Trump Tower while Donald Trump was running for president of the United States. I mean, come on. This has nothing to do with PP tapes. Grow up already. Nobody cares whether there is or isn't. They're so disgusting. All of these quote unquote men that you worship, they are so vile and so disgusting that nothing is impossible to contemplate happened. It's just the way they are. Well, when you're famous, you could do it. I just move on them like a bitch. I don't even know what that means. I move on them like a bitch. I can't stop kissing them like a magnet. I just kiss them. I don't even ask. And when you're a star, they'll let you do it. They'll let you do anything, even grab them by the P word, anything. When you're a star. They are disgusting human beings, vile human beings, nasty human beings. They cheat on this wife with the new wife, and then the new wife they cheat on the next wife with. Okay, it's just an endless, vicious cycle of disloyalty and lack of honor and lack of respect for anybody and anything. It's all about me. It's all about my satiation. It's all about my instant gratification. Me. Everything's transactional. Everything's got a price. Everything like, what do you want? What do you want? Well, okay, name your price. Oh, you don't have a price? Come back when you do. And then we can talk. I mean, it has absolutely everything to do with cheating. Everything to do with cheating on women, cheating on yourself, cheating on your country, lying under oath, not under oath, lying in public, lying at podiums, lying all the time about every damn thing because what you're doing is dishonorable. That's it. Nothing more to it. And these dishonorable people, the Michael Flynn's, the Paul Manafort's, what's his name, Carter Page, the Gates guy, I mean, all of them, they're all going to come back. All of them. Anybody that was loyal to the crime, anybody that was loyal to the caper. They're like Maury. I did my caper. I want my money. I want my money. I want to talk to Jimmy. I want my money. I did my caper.
Okay, you want to talk to Jimmy? Go talk to him.
Go talk to him. Go ahead. It's a great scene because he misses the door, but they left it in. I love that. But anyway, that's what that was about. That's what this is about. This is not about a PP tape. And anybody that's telling you that it is again distracting you with something that may or may not be true so that you don't focus on what is true. And what is true is that after $6.5 million and 4 years of looking around for something bad that the FBI did, in opening up an investigation into Donald Trump's admiration for and welcoming of Russian hacking interference in our election, he found nothing untoward. He found nothing illegal. He found nothing that he could even recommend be fixed. He didn't even have any recommendations for FBI, procedure or any law in the United States that needed to be tweaked or amended or changed or, gotten rid of. Or he found nothing. Like I said, it's a Happy Meal nothing burger with refillable drinks and endless breadsticks. This is nothing. He found nothing. And, Donald Trump standing there and saying, Durham is coming. Durham is coming. Wait, it's Durham. It's the crime of the century. And wait, you'll see. And producing always like a which is why they have to pay for it, It's always very anticlimactic with them. Like, nobody enjoys it. Nobody. Everybody goes home miserable all the time with these guys. It's just sad. And this is why everybody's enraged all the time. There's no satisfaction at the end of the rainbow. There's no satisfaction at the behest of these guys or anything that they can do. Not impressed. Not impressed. But they did actually cost Hillary Clinton, the FBI did, her. I mean, she was leading Donald Trump in the polls. I mean, she really, really was going to be the 45th president of the United States. Really. Until Comey got Anthony Weiner's laptop, which the New York FBI field office sat on, and then turned over at the very last possible second to FBI Maine, James Comey, and then he decided to announce that he was reopening the Hillary Clinton email investigation. That's what cost her the presidency. That's just a fact. Was Debbie Wasserman Schultz out of line questioning whether Bernie Sanders was an observant enough Jew for her? Yes. That was just really crazy to know that Debbie was questioning Bernie's loyalty to Moses. Really, it was really something. But that did not cost Hillary Clinton the election, okay? Bernie was already not the nominee. He was not on the ballot, okay? What cost Hillary Clinton the presidency was reopening the FBI investigation into her hacked emails that the Russians took.